Hi, welcome to TechSR. In this video, we're going to see what is an API or web API, how a web API differs from a web applications, what are the different types of APIs, and lastly, various tools which were used for testing a web API. Before getting into what is an API, first we understand how the web application works. In a web terminology, the client is actually the browser or the mobile phones or any device which we use to access the application, and the server is the actual application. So let's consider Amazon.com. So in this case, we try to search Amazon.in in a browser. So if we try to hit it, the request will be sent from browser to the server machine. The server then processes that request and sends the response as an HTML that will be actually rendered in the front end. Let me explain this scenario with the Chrome browser. So in my case, the Chrome browser is actually a client machine. So I'm typing amazon.in and hit a search button. So when I hit on search, in this case, the request is actually sent from client to the server, and server returns this entire content as an HTML which is being rendered here. And in case if I want to see any of the product here, let's say I'm going to look at this product. So when I do a click here, the request actually sends to the server again, and the server sends it as a response. Now we have the basic understanding of how the web application works. So it's working as expected. Now the question arises, what is the need of web API? Consider the scenario where this application needs to be working on multiple devices like mobiles, iPads, or various screen sizes. So the general practice is like we will be using the responsive web designs. Let me show this in a while. So this is the general way of designing for various devices. You can see now, right? So I'm just viewing as a Galaxy S20 view, and I can view for the iPad. But this view is not perfect for me. So I need to design a view alone separately for mobile device and separately for iPad. So in this scenario, I need to create a separate app like Android app or iPad app like that. So my application will get thicker, like I need to create a backend for all of this. So when a request comes from a browser, it needs to be handled differently. When a browser request comes from an iPad, it needs to be handled differently. And when a web request comes from a mobile device, the needs to be different, and response needs to be sent to the format which mobile requires. So it makes a task difficult for us. To overcome this problem, we're going to make use of an web APIs. Let me explain the architecture of how web API works. Okay, this looks same as the previous web application architecture, but the only difference is we have an intermediate layer here which is called an API. So when a request sends from the client, which is a web app or a mobile device or a iPad, anything, it will go into the API first. The API will send the request to the server, and the server sends the response to the API. So this response will be in a JSON format or XML format or whatever the format we need. So the response will be sent back to the web app in a browser or an mobile device or an iPad. By using this response, which is a JSON response or XML response, we can build an application in a front end by using an Angular application for web browser, Angular, React, or Vue.js maybe, and an Android app using this JSON response, and also an iOS application using this response. Now we have got the basic understanding of what is an web API and why we are using web API over web application. Now we can see the definition of an web API. So the API stands for Application Programming Interface. It is actually a software interface that allows two applications to interact with each other. Let's say we can see this as an example. So this is an API which allows this application to communicate with this application. So this is the backend application which is built using a .NET Core or in Java or Python, and this is another application which is built using the Angular, React, or Native or general HTML, and these applications are built using the iOS or the Android. Now we look into the different types of APIs. Okay, there are actually four types of APIs based on the access restrictions. An open API is just a public API, so these APIs are available to all the users without any restrictions. And next is internal API, which is a private API which is available inside an organization. Like if you're working on any organization, they will build some API and it is available inside those applications only. And partner APIs, these are generally not publicly available, but it's a third party library like Google Maps or any weather channels which provides the APIs based on a pricing channel. And then the composite APIs. Composite APIs may be public, private, or partner, but it's a combination of one or two web APIs. Next, we can see the various examples of APIs. So these are the examples of APIs like Twitter API, YouTube API. So you can get the embed link of the YouTube and post it on your channel or a website, and also you take the Twitter API and push it on your website. Like this, there are various APIs are available. Next, we see the various tools which were used for testing the APIs. So the most popular tools are the Postman's and then the Talent API tester. And while developing the .NET application, we tend to use the Swagger. So first see any one of these tool with some public API in action. Okay, so this is the Postman interface. You can see there are various operations like get, post, put, patch, delete and all. So the web APIs are mostly useful for performing the CRUD operations. CRUD in the sense create, read, update and delete. So to read the data, we will be using the get request type. And to update the data, we will be using patch or put. To create a new record, we will be using the post. And to delete a record, we will be using the delete. Now let's look into the public API. This API will provide the username which we pass is male or female. Let's say now I have passed the name as Rani, so I'm just trying to sending it. On sending, we can see the gender is female. So I will try some other name like Andy. So we are getting male. Maybe we can try one more name. Beth. This should be female. Yes. So this returns the details which you needed, and you can see the format is a JSON format. We can try the same with the Talent API tester as well. So it is a Chrome extension. So I am trying the same thing. Okay. It also provides the same details. In the upcoming videos, we will see how to create an web API using the .NET Core application. And also we can see what is the usage of the headers and the body section and all. So you can see, right, if we type the post, you will see the body section here and the headers as well. So we will see more about this in the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.